Okay, recording has started already. Good morning, everybody. Happy Kwaai Day. Friday, August the 9th, 2024. This is the 54th Kwaai Day. I'm going to hand over to Myra to get us to MC the schedule. Let's get it presented.
I am sharing it right now. Oh, it says I'm not allowed.
Oh, okay. Let me present.
Okay.
The schedule. Thanks so much for.
Of course.
There we go. Okay, and I can do that in slideshow mode, and that'll work. Okay. So Myra, talk us through it.
Well, I think the first part is you with the Kwaai updates, and then looking forward to our lightning talk speaker after that.
Fantastic. Okay, so let me give you an update. We are approaching 600 members, so that's always it's good to show the growth. Despite a summer slowdown, there is a notable slowdown during the summer. People are taking time off. I didn't realize how Kwaai's membership and even the sort of activity would slow down over the months of July and August, but it has. But that means it's going to bump up after people are back at college. A lot of our participation is from people that are affiliated to colleges, and so that also aligns well with our beta emphasis in academia. So thanks so much. We've got. I'll report later on the beta program, how that's doing, and also a bit of a report on our progress in grant applications. But let me introduce AZ. AZ attended the PAI Palooza Hackathon last weekend, and his team won. So we thought, let's invite him to tell us all about it. So well done, AZ. AZ, straight over to you. Introduce yourself and tell us about what happened.
Thank you all. Next is about AZ, Reza, if you want to switch to it.
Oh, okay.
You did. You created.
I found some interesting pictures, but that's the only one it took, AZ. There were other ones.
That was me in an off-Broadway play, playing an 80-year-old grandpa in a play called The Domestic Crusaders as a Pakistani-American family, a retired general, enlightening his kids to what the partition of India was all about and how it tore families and people apart. So it was an amazing opportunity there. And that happened in New York, DC, here, Berkeley. So thank you, Moira. That was a good find. People, I am a member of Kwaai. I'm a volunteer on the product team. I love Kwaai. I love the mission. From the moment Reza reached out to me, before Kwaai was founded, I was in. And it took me a while. I have my wife is overseas, so I'm sort of fractured, living on two continents, opposite time zones. But I've been a startup founder twice before. A startup right out of college, Dices.com. It's reality. It was stolen from me by my buddies. And then I started another startup in the early 2000s, and that was stolen from me by my cousin. That's usnets.net. So that's a reality of startups. So this is my third time going in, heart blazing, just fully. And this time I'm doing it with my brother from another mother, Chase, who you guys, will see, and Victor, who I met. I met Victor. I was there as a volunteer, but I was a founder for the conference, for the hackathon. And Chase was stuck at Frankfurt Airport for 2 days. So I saw Victor's idea before he went up, and I just loved his energy. I really saw him from far away. I'm like, I gotta meet this guy. He's handsome man, and I'm a happily hetero man, but I loved him. And so met him. I was like, hey, your idea is similar. We joined up, and then the rest is history. But I'll let your questions guide the process, because I can ramble. So
no, ramble. Tell us about what was the project all about? I did not attend. Look, I was going to be up there before the PAI Palooza the hackathon got rescheduled and relocated to the Googleplex. In fact, I was up in the Bay Area, and I went to go and meet with folks in Sacramento. I'd kind of, but it would have been lovely if we'd all been up there. And Sam was also going to be up there, but of course when the schedule changed at the last minute, his commitments in Europe meant neither of us could join. But I'm really glad that you were there representing Kwaai. Thanks so much. So tell us about your project.
So the project that I came to pitch originally was a real estate bot that my buddy Chase and I have been working on for better part of a year. And he has been a property manager, and he has a lot of issues. He's had a lot of issues with all the regulation, all the laws, and the changes that keep happening. So the real estate bot was what we were going to come and present as a subscription model. But Victor's passion and just his energy and the strength of his presentation, this is even before he presented. Like, just, before the hackathon, that little networking time, I was sold. Like, Toby asked me, aren't you presenting? Your name's on. I'm like, nope, I'm joining with the first presenter. And it so happens that our CTO, Amir, was also there. And Amir, Victor, and I, that night, the next morning, we met at Victor's hotel, the Ameswell. And we were racking our brains. And, Chase was getting there at 12:30-ish. I had him completely appraised of the situation. And Chase is like, AZ, you're coming to the airport to pick me up. I'm like, Chase, I'm in a meeting. He's like, AZ, you're coming to the airport. Like, all right. So I was there at the airport, picked him up, brought him straight over with a cup of coffee. 2 days at the airport. Well, they stayed in a hotel, but he's got a 1 and a 2-year-old. This man, we ran a marathon. We essentially worked through the night, and we pivoted within 2 hours of Chase's arrival. We realized that the greater opportunity than Saudi Arabia or a real estate bot is real estate services for veterans, because there is so much potential. I mean, I will get into the detail there, but the pivot was an amazing experience. Deep was there. Deep had mentioned that, hey, AZ, the work with my team is continuing, and the team members working on it, but I'd love to be part of your idea. So she was with us through that pivot process. And it was amazing how we kept eliminating avenues. No, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. We were continuously looking for our MVP. What's our unique value proposition? And the way the pivot happened, I wish it was recorded. It was self-evident that we have such an immense opportunity that's available to us for veterans, that for us to not utilize it is just giving up money on the table. So like right now, we're aware of grants that are available for veterans. We've got networks begun going in that direction. We've got, so we're working in that direction. But yeah, so the pivot took us to the real estate bot. Then Chase has literally just another brother from another mother. Our relationships are such that we're not just friends. We really are brothers. Chase, I've known for, hey, Karsten, I'm in a meeting here. Karsten's making noise over there. I don't know if that's annoying us. Can you guys hear that noise?
No.
Karsten, meeting.
We can't hear it.
Thank you. Yeah. So sorry about that. So his friend, who's now our chief architect, previously we were evaluating who the CTO would be, but his friend Alberto is our chief architect, and he has a proprietary model. He's been working at the University of Heilbronn in Germany, and it's bleeding edge concept. Like, we had to submit our repo for evaluation in the contest, and he was upset at me. He's like, this is proprietary information. So he promptly, after we won, he took that model down. So now my angle is that we're gonna use the PAI OS and our proprietary model, do an A/B testing throughout. So we'll have the PAI OS, we'll have the proprietary model, and anytime we have to submit a repo, we'll share the PAI OS. So the proprietary model doesn't have to be socialized. But yeah, and he said, all right, what you shared was a children's trike compared to the sports car I have, so it's good, but you still gave away, keys to the kingdom. I'm like, don't worry, it's okay. We're advancing knowledge for everyone. So yeah, so we're super excited that we get to, like, for us, the excitement is, it's not just winning the hackathon, it's seeing the structure around, like, today I'm at Karsten's home. I'm going to meet Toby. I mean, I've got VCs offering me, we have VCs offering us, we have startup mentors, we have open source mentors offering us their guidance. We reached out, you saw in that thank you note I had on LinkedIn, I've reached out to all the names of the people who provided, the entities that provided funds for our prize money. All the ones that I could find, I tagged. The ones I didn't were hashtags. But, we want to reach out to every single one of these people. There is such an amazing structure. This is what I haven't experienced yet. I've been a facilitator so far. I ran the Facebook developer meetups in 2008, and I was the guy who would get developers talking about what's under the hood, what's special, because developers aren't, they're not prone to share the juice or the special sauce or what makes them special, but you get them to ignore the audience and literally engage with them one-on-one and talk to them and start talking about their baby. People want to share, hey, my baby is special because of this and because of that. So I have that ability. I'm blessed with this natural talent. So my angle has always been helping others. Now being on the receiving end to see there's such an amazing structure, it is mine. I mean, I'm still in awe. On Monday when I told you I was giddy, was it Monday or Tuesday? I'm still giddy. It's an amazing experience.
Fantastic. And so tell me about the sort of feedback you got from potential funders, VCs that want to back you, and can you talk more about that?
Sure. We actually haven't gotten to that point yet. We attended a pitch, what do you call it? A pitch, 1-minute pitch at Draper University. So it was basically a pitch hackathon. Like, it wasn't so much a hackathon as a 1-minute pitch at Draper U, and it was more of a meet and greet. So we were there, we met some investors. We haven't really started. Honestly, we were sort of waiting to meet with Karsten before we come up with what our strategy would be. And now it turns out that it'll be Karsten and Toby, which I'm grateful for. We haven't started reaching out to investors other than Chase activating his veteran networks and talking to the colonel who was his, who's sort of considered Chase's son. I mean, we've got amazing relationships. So we've started activating the relationships more so on the veteran side because of knowledge about the fact that we have, grants available. So we're thinking we're going to go the grant route first before talking to VCs, because taking a VC's money means you have a level of control over you. And right now, like our chief architect, he said, I don't want to be CTO because I don't want to be overruled by a board saying you have to open up this model. So we're actually going to write in the contract that this model will not be opened up. It's not going to be a shared model. So because it's proprietary. So we're dealing with what we can. It's a lot to take on. We are creating a strategy. We have a roadmap for our product. It's a multi-step road, so we have a lot of things we want to accomplish. And the model that was demonstrated, which I can demonstrate today if people would like, is yeah, and that'll be from the computer. So it'll be interesting because the computer's mic isn't working. But before we do that, just want to say, just to complete the thought, that we haven't yet started talking to VCs or investors. We are looking for seed investors, for angel investors. We are thinking of holding back on going the VC route unless we need to, because there is no need to take on loans or obligations that we don't need. So we don't yet know. It's still early for us. And that's why Karsten said, if we're going to start this week. So we're here Friday. My team's showing up. They'll start showing up before 11 a.m. 11 a.m. our meeting begins, our day-long meeting. So we're approaching this seriously. Steve, go ahead, please.
Can I hear some features you want to offer veterans?
Couldn't hear you.
Steve, your audio is not audible.
Oh.
Sounds like you're down a well.
Yeah.
You can type it, Steve. That's not better.
Okay.
AZ, why don't you prep your demo? We'd love to see what you got.
Thank you. Will do. Yeah. And just so you guys know, I have been brewing. I was a Zen monk. Like, when I went through my divorce in 2005, I left IT in 2001, became a teacher, and I found that experience was so rewarding. It was literally the most rewarding experience of my life up until that point. I was jumping out of bed at 5:30 in the morning on cold winter mornings in New Jersey. My truck broke down. I took a bike to work until my wife took pity on me. She's like, no, take my car. Don't bike to work. I was experiencing something I had never experienced until then, which is passion for what I'm doing, unlike anything I had done before. And I realized that I was making 5 times as much at, working at South Street Seaport for Xtivia.com, an Israeli company. And from 100K, I went to 19K salary. And it was the most rewarding experience. I cannot tell you how much it changed my life. Taught high school math and physics, my students were interested. This was in East Orange, New Jersey, a really disadvantaged neighborhood, a disadvantaged area. And old, black families that were there, the tribe of Chief Oratom. This black tribe had been there before the white man came. So they have an ancient history. But these people are completely separated from the wealth that their tribes had. So my students were interested in learning math. They're like, why do we have to do it? We're not going to do it. So I found a carrot, and the carrot was I bought an 8-foot-long PVC pipe from Home Depot, and I had my 9th grade class cut it. Now, I had them use literally like a rope. Use a rope to cut, to find the halfway point, and it wasn't cut evenly. So teaching them geometry, like I taught them how to calculate the distance to the building across the street by the triangulation method, how telescopes work. So I tried to do things in real life that they would find interesting, but they weren't finding them interesting. So I bought this PVC pipe, had them cut it, and then we created a game where we did fencing, and the goal was to hit the front, side, or the back of the thigh. You can only get a point if you hit the front, side, or the back of the thigh, and that's 3 points, you win. If you hit above, you lose. You hit above the neck, you never play again. So that game became my carrot with which I pulled the 9th graders. The 12th graders had said, we're never going to do physics. You're just wasting your time. So I held the 12th graders back until I had them doing everything I wanted them to do. They were doing math. They were doing physics. They were literally doing their assignments. I held them back from them because I'm like, you guys aren't interested. Why do you want? This is physics. So I introduced that game as momentum dynamics. We called it momentum dynamics, and the kids went crazy. This is physics because you move your hand around and the pipe is still coming back. So, you got to find hooks for people. So I'm just saying that's been my way. I mentioned that I was talking about the startup concept. That's what I started saying. And by the way, I use a personal metric for myself. If I go from an original point to a train of thought tangent, I measure whether I come back to the train of thought and complete it. The thing I was saying is, I've been brewing a personal concept, which is an open source model. I took the first Stanford MIT Venture Lab class, and the preparation document for that class was so beautiful. That preparation document said, come with a problem. Don't just show up at class. Define a problem, come with a problem. I've done MKP, Mankind Project. MKP introduced me to coming with a problem. I came to my adventure weekend with 3 questions. One of them being, what about the dichotomy between my heart and my mind? When my heart wants one thing, my mind wants another, is a problem. So I learned that I got to follow my heart. I got to make my mind do what my heart wants. So the reason the reason I mentioned Venture Lab, that question got me thinking, and I articulated a vision and a question that I had been dealing with a long time in my life. And through my years as a Zen monk, myself and Wang Shifu, my teacher, we would sit at sunrise tea ceremonies. We'd be having our tea, and we would ask the question, how do we bring the experience of this cup of tea to an average everyday person? How do you convey the value of this moment and what we are experiencing in this cup of tea? Chinese tea ceremonies, small cups, you got to keep, it's a lot of hydration, unlike the Japanese. And the only solution we found was that there's such a wealth of like, you need to know posture, you need to know time, you need to know the concept of hydration, you need to know, like, there's a lot that you need to know. So the way you build that is layering. And I'm sharing away the keys to the kingdom because it's an open source model. This is what I've created. This is what my passion is. My passion is, well, I'm not going to say the name of the project, but I have a document that I shared as a solution to the Venture Lab, as my problem statement to the Venture Lab, Stanford, MIT course. And when I started the course, I saw they were not as organized as that document made it seem that they would be. So I actually didn't continue that class. But that document became the treasure that I came away from that experience with. And I've been developing that over the years. 2011, I started it as a startup. So I've been, in Silicon Valley, they say fail early, fail often. I'm like Steve Jobs. I'm not gonna bring this out until I'm ready, and I know that it's the type of thing that's gonna just grab people and grow. And what it is a self-knowledge, a self-development mechanism that starts as a game. It's a game where you're competing with yourself. You can choose to compete with other people, and it's a distinction engine. Once you learn something, you can now use that distinction and have something else layered on top of that distinction. So if I know about posture, I can now recognize that posture becomes an awareness with breath. Oh, okay, I have to breathe into my belly. So these becomes layers of awareness. You're aware of posture, you're aware of breath. Now you can start focusing on hydration. So the concept of layering, I was talking about circular indexes, 2011, 2015, I see it in Google I/O. So there's a lot of, thought ingenuity that goes into making these startups, and the people that come together, they come with a lot of different things. What I'm trying to say is I'm working on this startup. This isn't like, I don't believe this is the most important thing I'll do in my life, but this process is mentoring me. It's polishing me. It's getting me to the point where I believe I will be better prepared and more able to accomplish the vision that I believe to be the purpose of my life. I wake up from dreams, Reza and team. I wake up from dreams seeing myself utilizing this interface to get things done. So I believe I have a visual language. I look forward to bringing that forward. But coming back to
Thank
this,
you.
yeah. Yeah. So
Yes, we'd love to see your demo.
Well, oh yeah, I'll get to the demo. I need to move an API key.
AZ, we've got 20 minutes for this slot, and we're at 23 minutes into it. So maybe what we should do is schedule maybe in the follow-up, if you're coming to the idea exchange.
I won't be able to today. Our team's here for a meeting.
Then what we'll do is we'll schedule it for some other time. Myra, why don't you help get us back on track? Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, AZ.
My
This was great.
Thank you.
So I think next, Raza, we're going to go to the work group updates. The first one being the PAI assistant, if Balaji or Cyan are here. You guys want to give us an update on the PAI assistant progress this week?
Sure. Good morning. So
morning.
This week we are working towards finishing the rack. We started working with embed chain, but then we switched to LangChain because we think it is more useful for the purpose of being like customizable. And we also shared a roadmap on the Tuesday call. We're going to be updating that roadmap and presenting it again next Tuesday. And that's pretty much it.
Great. Do you want to share? Do you want to project the roadmap? Do you want to share that? Or
I don't have it available right now, but I can share it in the general channel in a few minutes.
Fantastic. Okay. Sam, I saw that you were dialing in from Europe. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm here. So the shift for us sorry, there's a bit of action in the background. The shift for us in the OS is from a kind of me cutting the code to looking at contributions coming in, and we have several pull requests that are coming in. I've got to the bottom of an issue with the signatures coming in on the pull requests. It looks like that GitHub is actually creating a merge, and so I need to change it to rebase, and then it's a bit of Git details there. Because a merge request through the pull request UI and API would be signed by GitHub themselves, which we do not want because then we're dependent on GitHub's whole security infrastructure. The other thing that I've been working on is Azure and how we will work with cloud providers, but I needed to kind of pick one to start looking at that. And this relates to our discussion about assets and kind of how do we pull data in and being able to connect to a storage account in Azure and pull in the data or upload the data. And you're looking at the different kind of channels that we're going to have for this data coming in, which is a useful operating system service. We had a good discussion this week about being able to share URLs, and a PAI OS instance is going to likely have a custom domain like mypi.sanjay.net or something like this. And we're not going to want to have each different application on it having to have its own custom domain and so on. So that is something that makes sense as a PAI OS service. And I'm getting some help from somebody in the group there, which is good as well. Who's going to contribute that. And then the other discussion, of course, is with PAI Palooza going on. Like, how can we be, we don't kind of want to say, you have to build on PAI OS just for the sake of it. Right, we hope that PAI OS is going to be helpful for them to be able to build quicker, so they don't have to do a lot of this kind of plumbing, if you like. They can just take this foundation and go and build, take their proprietary model, like AZ was talking about, and pop it on top, and away you go. But also, we want it to be like a channel. So the reason you make an app and deploy through the App Store is because of the ton of users there, and we want to say we've got all these users here, and so rather than just building something and have to build all these installers and go build your install base from nothing. You can kind of whatever it is, deploy into the App Store, and so that's another line of discussion that's going on. That's about it for us.
Great, thanks so much, Sam. And
sorry, I had my video off. Then I didn't mean to have my video off.
I think one of the big achievements is making sure the entire repo is signed, and you've now structured the sort of signing ceremonies and. To make sure the entire supply chain is a trusted supply chain. Talk a bit more about that.
So this is based on what KubesOS do. It's also based on Debian use Web of Trust if you go back to I think 80s, 90s when Phil Zimmerman came up with PGP. And so the maintainers, and I'm the primary maintainer obviously, but I've also got Carsten has come in. He's out of an old guard kind of open source guy. And so he's also, if I get run over, he's able to sign the keys and things as well. And the idea is that to write to the repo, to basically get your contributions into the repo, not only does your contribution needs to be signed, but your key needs to be signed, your GPG key needs to be signed by an existing maintainer. And so what that means is the whole repo is entirely self-contained. You can validate, all the way back to the epoch. So I went to the root commit. I went and re-signed everything and created, moved the repo over to be there's an unsigned backup copy, and then everything is signed back to the root. And now every contribution, whether it's from Roy or Annie, or as I start to add like Robert and so on, and Patricia in to be contributors, I'll have a little key signing ceremony with them where they show me some ID, and then I sign their key and put it on the Ubuntu key server. And then you will, as a user, online, offline, in GitHub, GitLab, wherever you want, you'll be able to validate that nobody's come into the supply chain and injected vulnerabilities. Because this is the most sensitive data. If you take it to the absolute extreme, it's reading your email, it's reading your messages and stuff. But you can imagine having like a humane pin that is recording it's like a life recorder. It's recording everything you hear and say is going into a transcript. So you can say, oh, who was it I talked about going on holidays with last Tuesday? And it will be able to answer that, right? And so this is like super sensitive information. So we really need to have a higher level of security than average. And Cubes is another example of a reasonably secure operating system. They say facetiously. But so this is all built in and self-contained. So it's more secure than your average repo.
Fantastic. Okay, back to you, Myra.
Well, I think one of the ones I was excited to hear more about this week was the alignment and policy update, since we had some interesting conversations in that working group. So if Ryan's available, love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't see Ryan on the call. He's active on Slack, but I don't see him on the call. No, it sounds really garbled, Steve.
I don't know what I write.
Okay, let me give you an update of what happened in the alignment and policy meeting. So the alignment initiative is to do a survey of all the papers, all the academic papers that talk about the alignment between AI and human values. And the survey effort is reading those papers, summarizing them, and trying to map them out, and so that we can create a survey paper to say this is what the landscape of alignment looks like, the thinking around alignment. That's one part of the initiative. The other part of the initiative is to create a position paper where Kwaai puts forward, here is our position regarding alignment, and so that becomes an academic paper. But look, right early on we said we need to be creating practical tools, not just passive blog posts or passive papers and whining about the problem. So misalignment between AI and human values is a well-known criticism of AI, but very few people actually say, here's how you fix the problem, or here's how you quantify the misalignment, and here's how you remedy and ensure alignment. So we're taking, we in this very last meeting, and it's worth watching the recording of the meeting. So if you're a member of the public, you're not going to get access to watching the recording because it's one of the work group meetings. We might surface up some of the videos. If you want to become part of the discussion, sign up to Kwaai, get a Slack account, become part of the membership, become part of the work groups, and become part of that conversation. So there's a public conversation that we surface up here weekly, but there's all sorts of work group conversations that go on, hundreds of hours of videos where we are discussing these issues. How do we measure alignment between human values and AI? That was what we were debating, and so we bring it back to personal AI. It's really the alignment of AI to my personal values or your personal values. So let's make this thing relative. Let's make it so that we can first of all provide individuals a way of actually in their configuration and settings to actually define what their values are. I value these things, and maybe create them as sliders so that we know what you want, rather than Kwaai as an organization imposing, here are, I don't know, the cultural norms, or here are the here's our a view of what human values are. So you make it personal. You create a mechanism for people to say, well, I value accuracy. Oh, I value speed. I value bias. I want the lowest bias thing. I value a model that has proven provenance of its training data. So these map onto the things we call nutrition facts. These are quantifiable, observable metrics of a model. And that means that when we go to the shop, let's say the Hugging Face shop, and we pull a model off the shelf, we want a metric to say, how does this model align with our personal values? And I think that is the upstream way of solving the alignment problem. You solve it as far upstream as you can so that you're not having to solve it downstream, but trying to make sure that your personal assistant is actually aligned with your values in operation. That is a harder problem to solve. So that was the realization we came to in this last meeting. So a fascinating meeting. I was hoping that Ryan would be here to talk about it, but hey, we're a volunteer organization. People get busy. So that's
Could I respond to that, Reza? Is that possible?
Yeah. Go ahead. Up, your hands up, John.
Thank you. I have an AI therapy app client, and just to respond to your upstream values statement, a lot of the models themselves are built with political bias already built in. I'll give an example. Like, one of the users were telling the therapy app a story about issues they have with their mother, and because of the political bias of the Meta model at the time, it was one of the llamas back in the day. This bias came up where it started to talk condescendingly to the person about how they shouldn't have this particular therapeutic, this particular issue psychologically. So I thought it was a huge red flag for models themselves having a bias. And so were you saying that you're going to rate models as far as the bias that they may have right off the bat? Or you're just basically allowing each person to tailor make their AI for their own use case, including use cases that might not be savory to some of us law-abiding citizens?
No, good question. So one of the initiatives in the policy group is AI model transparency. And we came up with the notion of nutrition facts, much like you have in the food chain. So the ingredients of the models should be quantifiable. Not only the ingredients, but sort of the kind of performance metrics. And so the model's performance metrics, you'd want to know what those are. And what the way Kwaai would participate in that is actually creating the tools to measure it. We'd release those tools. These would be open source tools. So the users of models would in effect be crowdsourcing the data. As they use the model, the performance metrics will be reported back to a web-based leaderboard that Kwaai would host. So that's part of the discussion. John, if you want to participate in that, it's a Thursday policy and alignment work group, 9 to 10 a.m. We'd love to see you there.
Thanks,
I'll
Reza.
send you the link, John.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
And Nicole was very vocal in that call. Nicole, tell us about what was going on.
Oh, in the past meeting?
Yeah.
Oh,
or
sure,
whatever your hand was up for.
well, it coincides. I was just going to let John know in a more practical sense of application to address his question about bias and the slider concept we're talking about. In my understanding, which may not be reflective of the actual direction, keep that in mind, John, I would assume that as a user approaching this, if you in particular wanted to have political discussions with your AI assistant, say you work in politics or you're teaching about politics, or for whatever reason, a good actor reason to talk about politics, then you'd want a model with low bias so that it wouldn't strive to correct itself and avoid those directives with you. So if you were going to have, say, an intelligent discussion about political direction and you wanted to do that with an AI, you'd want something with low bias correction so that you can have an open and constructive discussion with that. Whereas if you wanted something that didn't have any political injections at all, you'd want something with a high bias away from political interaction. So depending on what your use case is as the proverbial user here, you'd be able to adjust your model to be more or less sensitive to your own needs. Does that help?
Just to be clear, so the political bias I'm referring to is what some people refer to, I don't mean to trigger anybody on the phone call, what some people call woke. And woke has a theoretical assumption of what's right and wrong in the world that people who aren't woke don't have that same assumption. So it's not politics that Trump is bad and good. It's what is appropriate behavior in the world that's being policed by these models. That's the issue.
Exactly. And I think the goal is to avoid a direct classification of right or wrong opinion and approach it from a stance of respectful acceptance that other people have differing opinions, and that's okay. And I think teaching
that would probably make that would probably make for a better performing model, because I think that there's taxation when you try to impose political will or philosophical intent onto an AI model itself.
I don't have enough hands for that many worms.
I do feel like this is a really fascinating conversation, and maybe we can continue this in the.
We should continue. Thanks, Myra, for keeping us
absolutely
on track. Let's make this a topic for the after party. Great. Okay, so I wonder if Joe is on the call. Joe Suppers, and we can move on to the beta program. But if not, I'll give an update. We are over 20. We're at over 20 applicants already. A press release went out. If you want to go and look at the press release, it is on the website. Let's go and find it. Maybe Myra, you can get to the website. Let's see the press release. I'm not sure if I made it navigable. Yes, it's off the beta page. So if you navigate to the beta page, there's now a sub page. And it's called press release. So feel free to share that with colleagues. It's a way. Thank you very much, Myra. You're at it, and it's we've got a lot of inbound. Thanks so much, Robert Binning, for organizing a meeting with University of Texas. We've got meetings with lots of other colleges. As I told you, I've already reported on Rutgers and Harvard, and we had a meeting with the University of Quebec yesterday. So this is fantastic. Lots of inbound from the Americas. We've also got inbound from outside of the Americas, where we're not sure if we're going to be able to host those. They're free to be able to host themselves, but we've managed to form a great alliance with a company called iBridge and Swiss Vault, and they are underwriting the infrastructure for those colleges that can't afford to put up the infrastructure themselves. It is a fantastic data center they have. It's a GPU data center they've built from scratch, and it runs. If you go to beta.kwaai.ai, you'll see Lumi. Okay, this is the Lumi that's at faq.kwaai.ai. If you speed test the two, the one in the data center in Sacramento, iBridge data center, runs 10 times faster than the one in AWS. It's just mind-blowing. Now, on top of that, it is cheaper, and that is a stepping stone for us to local AI, to making AI more accessible to more people. That is democratizing AI. So look, we are, in fact, we got a noon meeting with them to talk about how this scales. I'm so grateful for the partnership that they're showing us. They are providing that infrastructure free of charge during the beta. Okay, so
quick note, Reza, I saw yesterday you had a call for bringing AI to your campus kind of office hour, which I think would be really great if everyone probably listened to or took a look at. I don't know if that video is available quite yet, but if I can find it, I will put it in the Slack channel.
Yeah, in the PAI beta Slack channel, if you'd post it there.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, great. Because that was an important thing. That basically is the how to bring your bring AI to the campus. There's some colleges that can't wait for the beta, and they wanted to get it up and running now. For instance, Cornell, we just pointed them at the GitHub repo for the POC, and within an hour they had it up and running, and it's now a lab assistant. The sort of feedback we got from them is, hey, can we feed it with Slack data? So that's an interface, that's a data connector we'd like to build. When you think of all of the conversations that are going on in Slack in particular work groups, having that inform a personal AI assistant would be super valuable. So it's not just the transcripts of work group meetings, but Slack itself, that would be great. So we are getting that, and that's an example of feedback that you get by putting the software out there and allowing more people to kick the tires on it. Okay, I guess I'm up next, but I'm going hoarse in the voice. Maybe Brian, you can talk about that your experience in the grant applications process.
Okay. So recently we went through a grant application process for the Mozilla Foundation has a grant set up right now for organizations that are working with local AI. Very well aligned with what our group is doing. So we put in 2 proposals, one for the beta project and one for the Kwaai net, which is really the sort of the next generation OS type of thing with the understanding that it operates over a network. So you can distribute compute and storage, you can collaborate with others, you can federate with others. So think Fediverse, but in AI terms. So those.
Yeah.
So
thanks so much.
Yeah.
And it's also.
There's also, yeah, Ryan just pointed out there's another grant that's coming up in mid-September that we're also going to be. You put it up on the screen, great. So yeah, this is the Mozilla Builders Accelerator, and then Ryan pointed out that there's another grant coming up in mid-September for the Future of Life Institute, I think it is, and they're also very aligned with our mission. So yeah, it was a good experience in that it forced us to really think about what specifically we're doing as the next stage of each of these projects and how we would frame that to outside parties.
Yeah. So a couple of great things that are in our favor. One is we're a nonprofit. Second is we're open source. And so and then the theme of our focus around personal AI, around local AI, aligns with Mozilla really well. It also aligns with 2 or 3 other grants that we're midway through processing. So we are in the process, let me just do the math, close on $6 million in grants we are in the process of applying for. If you fancy yourself as a grant writer and you want to participate, the way we're doing this is we're creating this sort of boilerplate language that we can cut and paste into subsequent grants. We're also doing a lot of work in trying to find out which grants historically have succeeded, and looking at the type of language and the type of structure of these grants. So the California Learning Labs grant was a great experience to apply for. we're midway through that application. We've met the deadline to submit the statement of intent. Now we're in the process of writing out the detailed grant and the budget. These are important. Folks like Afshin, our president, he writes grants day in, day out. So I'm grateful for his guidance on, how to structure your costs, your indirect costs, and so on. These are important features. If you come across a grant, send it our way. So Brian and I are also, we've worked together, and we seem to be motivated by a deadline. Things look impossible, and then we just work backwards from the deadline. We say, okay, well, if this is the deadline, then we need to have got this done by this stage, and create a series of meetings and go ahead and do that. And so we met the deadline for the 2 Mozilla grants. We met the deadline for the California Learning Labs grant, and then we've got a pipeline of grant applications going out right through the rest of the year. So very exciting. It's once these grants come in, we would now have to figure out how to apportion them, and that'll be a whole extra exciting discussion. Okay, I think we've left ourselves only 10 minutes for member voices. Myra, why don't you get us?
Yeah, I'd love to know who the new members are that would like to introduce themselves. Please feel free to raise your hand, and Reza will call on you. So before he does that, we'd love to hear from you.
Drea.
Thank you. You're muted, Drea.
I've just been lurking for a while, just to kind of get the feel for what's going on. Anyway, so I'm a fairly new member. I've been in for about the past month. I am a graphic designer with background in graphics, print and digital and web, and also UI UX design. And anyway, that's me. I'm really excited about AI. It's just been a lot of fun, especially working with AI in a graphics pipeline has been kind of a game changer. But also LLMs, Chat GPT and all that. And I would love to get a lot deeper into AI than I've been. Anyway, that's me. Nice
Thanks so much, Drea. We might hit you up for help on. We could use help on our graphics. Thanks.
Fantastic. And I would love to do that. Let's stay in the loop about that.
Okay. I saw Ryan turning up late. Ryan, we actually did a good account of the alignment and policy meeting, but maybe you just want to say 1 or 2 words.
Yeah. I just what I wrote with the taxonomy research so far, but there is a spin-off that I found where for a product idea, I know we've bounced around product ideas in the past with the funding arm, Reza, that you mentioned. But one of the ways that particularly that could spin off of alignment is like a measurement tool. So the user would be engaging with their LLM, and based on the interactions that they're having, this would essentially categorize the problem areas. And from there, they can fix it themselves, or we can apply as a service, essentially, and automate a lot of the parts of basically realigning to fix some of the common problems that across the user base. It could be, of course, personal or across a consortium of many users, right? So it's just something I found in the wild, and I thought, wow, we should definitely have a version of our own here.
Well, maybe in the after party, in the idea exchange, we can go into that in more detail.
Okay,
so that's great. Gosh, I see a whole bunch of extra names that we haven't heard from in a while, like JD Miller from Chicago. Haven't spoken to you for a while. You're a lightning speaker once. Maybe you want to say something. And where is he? You're not normally quiet and shy. JD.
No, I'm not normally quiet. Hopefully you can hear me. This has actually been fascinating to listen to, and a lot of these conversations I'm hearing across the globe. But really, I'm always excited when I see this across LinkedIn. And one thing I'd love to recommend to everybody, and Reza and the team do a fantastic job of promoting on LinkedIn. 500 members is something we should tout. And every single one of us, there's 38, 40 of us on this call right now. After, Rez and the team post this on LinkedIn, a snippet of it and a recap. If each one of us on this can repost that, not just like it, please repost that. This community is going to grow even quicker than it is now, as you mentioned earlier, during these slow months, Reza. That's my recommendation, and I'm going to definitely do that to my network as well, because there's so much more we can do, and we get even more bright minds on these calls. And part of this initiative, it's going to be huge. So anyway, that's almost sprained my ankle jumping off my soapbox there. But I think this is something that we all can do very easily and be active in this community.
Zaidi, thanks so much. Thanks. Great. Let's look. I'm going to call on you if you don't speak up. John, thanks so much for making the introduction. There was I haven't scheduled the meeting with now I'm trying to remember who you introduced me to. But let's say
Seth.ai.
That's right. And the issue of personal AI, the issue that Kwaai is facing, applies to the entertainment industry as well, and the intellectual property of musicians. And we've got some voices from that industry. We've heard from Ted Cohen, and we're going to be hearing from you. I think you're going to do a lightning talk. Let's see. Hey, you've not given us a date yet. I'll put you on the spot there. So separately, you need to maybe confirm which days you want to meet. But I'm gonna let me tell everyone who do we expect in the next series of lightning talks. We've got Richard Witt on the 16th. We've got Rafi Krikorian from the Emerson Collective. If anyone wants to look up what the Emerson Collective is, it's the nonprofit fund set up by Steve Jobs' widow. And what Kwaai is doing is bang aligned with what they are focusing on. We've got a former customer, colleague, startup of mine, Scott Glosserman from Gather. Fantastic character. I reconnected with him. He's going to be a speaker shortly, sometime in September. Darren's put his hand up because Darren knows who Scott Glosserman is. And Rika Nakazawa from NTT will also be joining in September 20th. So we've got a good body of speakers. If there's anyone that you want to recommend, a domain expert in the sort of adjacent fields that personal AI would affect, send a suggestion, and we'd love to have them on to address the entire community. Myra, let's wrap here. We've got the after party, the idea exchange. This is the meeting we have after the weekly public meeting where we discuss the issues that were raised here and other issues in some depth. It'd be great if you would want to come and join that.
I will put the link right in, and we would love to see as many people contribute to the ideas. The more voices, the better. Fantastic.
Okay, well, thanks so much. We will see you in the after party. If I don't speak to you later on today, have a great weekend. See you next week. Let me tell you what's going on next week. Next week, I'm going to be in Vegas, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at the AI4 conference. If you're going to be in Vegas, then love to meet up with you. The keynote speaker is keynote. Well, I've posted it online. Go look up AI4. But we've got some, and we're really grateful to AI4 for actually providing us with a group of free tickets. Now those those tickets were taken up already. But you know, hey, snooze you lose. But Jeffrey Hinton is going to be the keynote speaker. So looking forward. I've reached out to him. I don't know if I'll get a meeting with him, but I've reached out to him through the conference platform. And so that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I'm going to be skipping the meetings Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but I will see you Thursday, Friday, as usual. And then I think we start to get back into the normal routine as people come back from their summer breaks later in August. Thanks so much. Happy Kwaai Day, everybody.
Happy Kwaai Day. Thank you. Bye.
Gosh, AZ was exhibited some amazing energy, didn't he? AZ, maybe we can get that demo in the. Oh no, we can't. You said you're going to be busy, so you were not coming to the after party. Okay, but look, I'm going to hop to that meeting. So have a great weekend.
Do we have a link for that?
Reza,
Because
I could drop in today or another day if that works.
Today would be great. Yeah, just click on. It's in the chat, Drea.
I can't find the chat. I'm on a different device.
Ah, okay. Hover down at the bottom. The chat should come up.
Is it in call messages or no?
Yes.
Wait, there it is. There
yes,
it is.
it is.
Okay.
In call messages.
All right. I will see you in a minute.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much. Bye.